Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Sadhu, sadhu. We pay homage to the Blessed One, the fully enlightened Buddha. Sadhu. We pay homage to our teacher, Lukaswami Maharaj. Sadhu, sadhu. And dear Dhamma friends, today we are going to continue studying the Kundalini Sutta, and the Buddha was teaching about the Noble Eightfold Path in a very beautiful way to the Wanderer Kundalini. And his question was about true knowledge and liberation, freedom, about Nibbana. And Buddha was explaining him the gradual path starting from the sense restraint. And Buddha explained in details how sense restraint leads to the three kinds of good conduct. Then Buddha explained about how the three kinds of good conduct leads to the development of the four kinds of mindfulness meditation. And we were discussing about these four kinds of mindfulness meditation. The first kind is the Kaya Anupassana, the meditation techniques in order to understand the true nature of the body. That's the meaning of Kaya Anupassana. There we learned about several meditations such as breathing meditation, posture meditation, day-to-day activities meditation, impurities of the body meditation, and we were learning about the mindfulness on the four great elements meditation. So there we learned about how to practice the Vipassana using the knowledge of the earth element and water element. Today we are going to learn the last two elements, how to do Vipassana with those last two elements, fire element and the air element. So we use Dhatu Vibhanga Sutta to understand how to do this insight meditation. Also, we used Mahahati Pathabhuma Sutta, and today we are going to use the same two suttas to understand this insight meditation deeply. So if you can read about the description of fire element, we can discuss about that. This is how to practice Vipassana about fire element, Tejo Dhatu. That is the Pali word for fire element, Tejo Dhatu. Who is going to read?
I can read, Bhante.
Okay.
What bhikkhu is a fire element? The fire element may be either internal or external. What is the internal fire element? Whatever internally belonging to oneself is fire, fiery, and clung to, that is, that by which one is warmed, ages, and is consumed, and that by which what is eaten, drunk, consumed, and tasted gets completely digested, or whatever else internally belonging to oneself is fire, fiery, and clung to, this is called the internal fire element. Now, both the internal fire element and the external fire element are simply fire element, and that should be seen as it actually is with proper wisdom thus. This is not mine, this I am not, and this is not myself. When one sees it thus, as it actually is, with proper wisdom, one becomes disenchanted with the fire element and makes the mind dispassionate towards the fire element.
Sadhu, sadhu. So now you can understand very clearly the Buddha explains how we should investigate the true nature of this life. And when we do that investigation, we will realize that this heat in this body is a part of the nature. And that is why when the nature is hot, we feel that, and it becomes the same. And when the outside is very cold, we feel that, and we don't have a control over the uh, over the heat of the body, and we have to use suitable dresses or clothing. We had to use air conditioning, we had to use fans, we had to use heating. It's because we try to survive in such an environment where we don't have control over our body. We don't have any power to command our body, considering that this body is mine and it should be like this, or it shouldn't be like that. Buddha explains there is no such control. This is the same thing we have to understand, that this heat is a part of the nature. And when this wisdom is developed, one becomes disenchanted with the fire element. That, as a result, that wise person no longer considers that this body is mine, I am, and myself. That is the wisdom we need to develop in order to abandon identity with Sakkaya Ditthi, to become Sotapanna, to attain the first stage of enlightenment. That is a very deep understanding about the life, and it leads, that understanding definitely leads to peace, true knowledge, nibbana. So here Buddha explained about two words again. All these explanations about the internal fire element, or the heat inside the body, uh, the heat by which one is warmed. We feel that warm inside the body, and the heat. There is this heat that ages the body. We cannot control. We cannot stop that. You can very clearly understand that this the fire element in this body is cannot be controlled by us, and it definitely ages our body. It ages all the sense faculties, and eventually, as a result of that aging, all these sense faculties, the parts of the body will die. So that is done by this heat of the body, the heat that ages the body, and also this heat uh, by which what is eaten, drunk, consumed, and tasted gets completely digested. It is done by this heat. It is not done by a person or any other external power. It is just done by this internal heat element inside the body. Now you can see why we need we should develop the wisdom to understand that these things are just parts of the nature, and they go back to the nature. So Buddha was explaining about internal fire element in that way, and also Buddha explains the external fire element, saying that internal fire element and external fire element are simply fire element. That's another knowledge to gain. Right? So to understand about this, we are going back to the Mahahattipadavama Sutta. Yeah, we're going to learn about that. Yeah, if you can start reading from here, you can very clearly understand. And Buddha explains very clearly about internal fire element and the external fire element. Who is going to read?
I can read, Bhante.
Okay, okay.
There comes a time when the exterior fire element flares up. It burns up villages, towns, cities, countries, and regions until it reaches a green field, a roadside, a cliff's edge, a body of water, or cleared parkland, where it is extinguished for lack of fuel. There comes a time when they go looking for a fire, taking just chicken feathers and strips of sinew as kindling. So for all its great age, the fire element will be revealed as impermanent, liable to end, vanish, and perish. What then of this element? What then of this ephemeral body, appropriated by craving, rather than take it to be I or mine or I am, they still just consider it to be none of these things.
Okay, very good. So that is how Buddha explains about the impermanence of the exterior fire element. You can see sometimes you can easily find a fire outside. Sometimes it's very hard to find some heat. So that's the impermanence of this great fire, exterior fire element. And then Buddha asks, even that great exterior fire element is impermanent. So why do you still consider this very small fire element inside this body as yours, as mine, as I am? And that is completely a misunderstanding. That is completely a distorted perception. That is why you need to develop wisdom to understand that this is just a part of the nature and it is impermanent, subject to change. It is not mine. Fire element is not I am, not myself. That is the wisdom we need to develop, and that is the understanding we need to gain. That is the path to do the Vipassana meditation, and everything is clearly explained here. And now we go back to the Dhatu Vibhanga Sutta to understand about the last element, and this is air element. Who is going to read?
Bhante, may I?
Mm-hmm.
What bhikkhu is the air element? The air element may be either internal or external. What is the internal air element? Whatever internally belonging to oneself is air, airy and clung to, that is up-going winds, down-going winds. Winds in the belly, winds in the bowels, winds that course through the limbs, in breath and out breath, or whatever else internally belonging to oneself is air, airy, and clung to. This is called the internal air element. Now, both the internal air element and the external air element are simply air element. And that should be seen as it actually is with proper wisdom. Thus, this is not mine, this I am not, this is not myself. When one sees it thus as it actually is with proper wisdom, one becomes disenchanted with the air element and makes the mind dispassionate towards the air element.
Sadhu, very
Sadhu,
good.
sadhu, sadhu.
So now you can see there are 6 parts here Buddha explains as the internal air element. And number 1 is upgoing winds, that the wind going upwards inside the body. And the second one is downgoing winds. Third one is winds in the belly. Fourth one is winds in the bowels. And the fifth one is winds that course through the limbs. The wind that goes through our hands, legs, and inside the limbs. And the sixth one is in breath and out breath. So now you can see very clearly that this is again just the nature. We breathe in the air outside, and when we breathe out, that air becomes a part of the nature. It is just the same. That's why Buddha very clearly explains here, both the internal air element and the external air element are simply the air element. We need to understand this. But even though it seems like a very simple thing, and it's a very obvious thing, and everybody would agree with that, but in order to gain the proper wisdom, developed wisdom, just that knowledge is not enough. We need to practice Vipassana meditation, contemplation on the true nature of these elements. That is very important to understand. And here, Buddha helps us explaining about exterior air element. Can somebody read this paragraph here?
I will.
Okay.
There comes a time when the exterior air element flares up. It sweeps away villages, towns, cities, countries, and regions. There comes a time in the last month of summer when they look for wind by using a palm leaf or fan, and even the grasses in the drip fringe of a thatch roof don't stir. So for all its great age, the air element will be revealed as impermanent, liable to end, vanish, and perish. What then of this ephemeral body appropriated by craving? Rather than take it to be I, or mine, or I am, they still just consider it to be none of these things.
So this one, very good. So again, you can see this great air element known as external air element is still impermanent, subject to change, vanish and perish. So we hear about tornadoes, right? So that's the impermanence of the air element. And sometimes, as Buddha explains, it's very hard to find some air, and we need to use fans, air conditions, and like that. So we need to create air artificially. It's so impermanent. So why do you still cling to this very little amount of air inside your body, and you consider it to be mine, I am, and myself? And that is the root cause of suffering. That is why we are wandering in this long journey of samsara, in this cycle of birth and death, endless journey, facing all these tragedies in this existence. And Buddha explains this is the same reason. And because we have not realized the true nature of this body in terms of elements, we get angry. We get angry. Defilements arise in our mind. We are greedy for things. There is craving inside. The result of not knowing the reality is the arising of defilements, various types of defilements. And with these defilements, we act with our body. We act with our words. We act with our thoughts. And they become bodily actions, verbal actions, and mental actions. And those bodily, verbal, mental actions are the karma. Because we act with those defilements, for the most part, karma is accumulated as bad karma. And karma is the fundamental, the reason for our rebirth, for our next life. When we are born, we always get a life which is subject to aging, subject to sickness, subject to death, subject to all of these physical and mental pain. See how Buddha realized this cycle, these links of the dependent origination, cause and effect mechanism. Amazing understanding of this existence in this journey is because of not understanding the true nature of this life and giving rise to defilements. But what happens is that when one understands the true nature of the life, you don't need to make an effort not to give rise to defilements. When the true nature, when the understanding of the true nature of life comes, the abandonment of defilements also comes at the same time. You don't need to make an volitional effort. It is like this. When there is lack of true nature, lack of knowledge of the true nature of life, we don't need to make an effort to give rise to defilements. They just naturally arise. So here, we talked about arising of defilements with the lack of understanding of the true nature of life, and we yell at others, we get angry at others, we fight with others, we hate others, all these problems. But look at this immediate result, immediate benefit of developing the Vipassana knowledge in one's life. This is the result. This is one of the results. This is a powerful result. It's just an example of the benefits, of the many benefits. Can somebody read this? So this is, here Buddha explains, actually Sariputta Bhante explains with the teachings of the Buddha, what happens to that meditator who practices Vipassana meditation on the elements.
Can I try to read
Mhm.
one? If others abuse, attack, harass, and trouble that mendicant, they understand. This painful feeling born of ear contact has arisen in me. That's dependent, not independent. Dependent on what? Dependent on contact. They see that contact, feeling, perception, choices, and consciousness are impermanent. Based on that element alone, their mind becomes eager, confident, settled, and decided. Others might treat that mendicant with disliking, loathing, and detestation, striking them with fists, stones, sticks, and swords. They understand this body is such that fists, stones, sticks, and swords strike it. But the Buddha has said in the simile of the saw, even if low-down bandits were to sever you limb from limb, anyone who had a thought of hate on that account would not be following my instructions. My energy shall be roused up and unflagging, my mindfulness established and lucid, my body tranquil and undisturbed, and my mind immersed in samadhi. Gladly now, let fists, stones, sticks, and swords strike this body. But for this is how the instructions of the Buddhas are followed.
Sadhu, sadhu. So that is a great way that meditator can start investigating the cause and effect mechanism. That is directly the dependent origination knowledge, understanding feelings, because feeling is a very critical link of the dependent origination. Pleasant feeling leads to defilements such as craving, clinging, attachment, greediness, lust, and all these that stream of defilements. Unpleasant feeling, the unpleasant feeling with ignorance leads to anger, hatred, irritation, aversion, and all those dark kind of emotions and defilements. But now you can see here with this knowledge of the elements, the inside knowledge of the elements, the meditator gets a very instant opportunity to contemplate on the cause and effect mechanism instead of following all those defilements connected with pleasant feeling and unpleasant feeling. He instead considers the impermanence of the feeling. And here, just for an example, Sariputta Bhante explains about the arising of the unpleasant feeling, which is born of ear contact. This is only one example to explain how this Vipassana knowledge of elements relates to the development of the knowledge of the cause and effect mechanism. So he start contemplating the impermanence of the ear faculty, the sound, impermanence of sound, impermanence of the ear consciousness. So all these three factors are called, the coming together of these three is called the ear contact. And he contemplates the impermanence of ear contact. Then he contemplates the impermanence of the unpleasant feeling born of ear contact. Then he contemplates the impermanence of the perception of sound. He contemplates the perception, the impermanence of the volition, saddha sanchetana. It's a completely different path he takes in. As a result, the level of the defilements are rapidly decreasing. And that's the path to peace in this very life. Now you see how the peace is gained in this very life with this powerful mindfulness. Now, if we think about the pain in our life, which arose in the past or which we are experiencing at present or we are going to experience in future, if you investigate, you will see that the main reason for our pain and misery is an object came to our mind through our sense faculties, either through our eyes or ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. And also a pleasant or unpleasant feeling associated with that object. There are no any other gateways where pain enters our life. It is just through these sense bases. And now you can understand Buddha started explaining this deep Dhamma with the sense restraint, right? And we are still talking about the senses. See how Buddha is trying to explain that our problem is not outside, it's just within these 6 sense bases. We are going from here to there, from this direction to that direction, from all around, and we find this same root cause of suffering. It lies just in these 6 sense bases. That's why Buddha started with the sense restraint. Now, sense restraint is not it's not the most powerful solution. Sense restraint is the initial solution for the problem. Buddha explained that in the very beginning, right? Sense restraint. And then sense restraint led to the 3 kinds of good conduct. 3 kinds of good conduct led to the 4 ways of mindfulness meditation. And we are still talking about sense bases. You can see gradually this mindfulness and wisdom can be developed in order to understand the true nature of suffering, cause of suffering, end of suffering, and the path leading to the end of suffering, 4 noble truths. When Buddha was explaining about the 4 noble truths, one day Buddha explained, this is in the Salayatana Samyutta, the chapter on the 6 sense bases. Buddha explained that, okay, what is suffering? What is noble truth of suffering? And the Buddha gave the answer. It is the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and the mind. That is the suffering. And what is the cause of suffering? Cause of suffering in the 3 types of craving: kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. Craving for worldly pleasures, sense pleasures, craving for existence, and craving for non-existence. 3 types of craving. What is the end of suffering? End of suffering is the cessation of all craving. And what is the path leading to the end of suffering, which is the Noble Eightfold Path? So now here, is that clear about that Vipassana practice about with the elements?
Yes,
And
Bhante.
there are very clear instructions how to practice that, right? So without any doubts, without any misunderstanding, without any misinterpretations, you can freely practice that meditation. With a very happy delight, a joyful mind, understanding the powerful benefits of that meditation. And that is a powerful meditation to break the identity view and to attain the first stage of enlightenment. And now let's go to Kundalini Sutta to see what happened after that explanation about the 4 kinds of meditation practices. Okay, so yeah, so that is only the we still didn't finish the first kind of mindfulness meditation, and that is the Kayanupassana. What is more to Kayanupassana mindfulness practice? So we learned about, so this is from the Kayagata Sati Sutta. It's all about the mindfulness meditation techniques related to the body, to understand the true nature of the body. And this is breathing. So we discussed about it. And this is posture meditation. We discussed about it. And this is the day-to-day activities, mindfulness practice. And this is the impurities of the body. So this sutta is like a meditation handbook, if you like to print and always have it handy. This Kayagata Sati Sutta is like a meditation book. It has all the meditations, explanations, direct in meditation instructions from the Buddha. So this is about that, and this is about the next meditation, the elements meditation. We just finished that, and this is the simile for that. Did we discuss the simile for the elements meditation? No?
No, we
Okay.
did
So
not,
can you
Bhante.
read the simile for that? So it will help us better understand.
Can I try, Bante?
Please.
It's as if a deaf butcher or butcher's apprentice were to kill a cow and sit down at the crossroad with the meat cut into portions. In the same way, a mendicant examines their own body, whatever its placement or posture, according to the element. In this body, there is the earth element, the water element, the fire element, and the air element. As they meditate like this, diligent, keen, and resolute, memories and thought of the lay life are given up. The mind becomes still internally. It settles, unified, and becomes immersed in samadhi. That too is how mendicants develop mindfulness of the body.
Very
Furthermore,
good. So yeah, so now we are going to learn the last segment of the mindfulness of the body meditation. So this is the last segment. Even though it is the last segment, it has 9 subsections. So total 9 meditations here. Yeah, Bodhi, you can continue.
Furthermore, suppose a mendicant were to see a corpse discarded in a charnel ground, and it had been dead for 1, 2, or 3 days, bloated, livid, and festering. They compare it to their own body. This body is also of that same nature, the same kind, and cannot go beyond that. As they meditate like this, diligent, keen, and resolute, memories and thought of their lay life are given up. Their mind becomes still internally, it settles, unified, and become immersed in samadhi. That too is how a mendicant develop mindfulness of the body. Or suppose they were to see a corpse discarded in a charnel ground being devoured by crows, hawks, vultures, herons, dogs, tigers, leopards, jackals, and many kinds of little creatures that compare it to their own body. This body is also of that nature, that same kind, and cannot go beyond that. That too is how a mendicant develop mindfulness of the body. Furthermore, suppose they were to see a corpse discarded in the charnel ground, a skeleton with flesh and blood held together by sinews, a skeleton without flesh but smeared with blood and held together by sinews, a skeleton rid of flesh and blood held together by sinews, bones without sinews scattered in every direction. Here a hand bone, there a foot bone, here a shin bone, there a thigh bone, here a hip bone, there a rib bone, here a backbone, there an arm bone, here a neck bone, there a jaw bone, here a tooth, there a skull. With bone the color, white bone, the color of shells, the decrepit bone heaped in a pile, bone rotted and crumbled to powder, that compare it to their own body. This body is also of that nature, that same kind, and cannot go beyond that. As they meditate like this, diligent, keen, and resolute, memories and thought of the lay life are given up. Their mind becomes still internally, it's settled, unified, and become immersed in samadhi. That too is how the mendicant develop further mindfulness of the body.
Sadhu, sadhu. So that's called charnel ground meditation. 9 stages of decomposing a dead body, comparing the same situation happening to our own bodies. So that's the meditation. That's a powerful meditation. There are 9 sections of that meditation. So there are 9 separate meditations. And altogether, how many for Kaya Anupassana?
14 months.
14 types of meditation. 14 types of meditation. So that is Kaya Anupassana meditation. And if you like to learn how Buddha explained about how Buddha encouraged his disciples to practice Kaya Anupassana meditation, yeah, so this whole section in the Anguttara Nikaya book of the Ones, numerical discourses, Buddha encourages his disciples to practice Kaya Anupassana meditation again and again. Amongst anyone who brings into his mind that great ocean includes all of the streams that run into it. In the same way, anyone who has developed and cultivated mindfulness of the body includes all of the wholesome qualities that play a part in the realization of the noble truths. See? When the mindfulness of body is developed, all the wholesome qualities that need to be cultivated in order to realize the Four Noble Truths are also cultivated. Amongst one thing, when developed and cultivated, leads to the great urgency to find a way out of suffering, great benefit, great overcoming of defilements, mindfulness and awareness, gaining true knowledge and vision, blissful meditation in the present life, the realization of the fruit of true knowledge and liberation. What one thing? Mindfulness of the body. Monks, when one thing is developed and cultivated, the body and mind become tranquil, initiative thoughts and focusing thoughts settle down, and all the qualities that play a part in realization of the noble truths are fully developed. What one thing? Mindfulness of the body. Monks, when one thing is developed and cultivated, unwholesome qualities do not arise, and if they have already arisen, they are abandoned. What one thing? Mindfulness of the body. So what is our problem? The arising of the unwholesome things, unwholesome qualities such as anger, hatred, greediness, attachment, craving, clinging, ignorance, egoness, right? This is the problem. These are the roots of suffering. And Buddha clearly explains here, when this mindfulness of body is developed, unwholesome qualities do not arise. There is a solution here. It is just up to us to apply the solution to our own life and see the results here and now. When one thing is developed, monks, and cultivated, wholesome qualities arise. And once they have arisen, they increase and grow. What one thing? Mindfulness of the body. When one thing is developed and cultivated, ignorance is eradicated. True knowledge arises. The conceit I am is abandoned. The underlying tendencies are uprooted and the fetters are abandoned. What one thing? Mindfulness of the body. So powerful. These are about very deep attainments of a liberated monk. Monks, when one thing is developed and cultivated, leads to the attainment of the fruit of stream entry. The fruit of one's returning, non-returning, liberation. What one thing? Mindfulness of the body. See? Unfortunately, some people think, oh, these techniques are very, very simple. We like very deep, subtle techniques. So they just don't pay the necessary attention to these techniques. And also, if we go to the deathless section, monks, those who don't enjoy mindfulness of body don't enjoy the deathless. Amata. Those who enjoy mindfulness of body enjoy the deathless. Deathless means another name for is Nibbana, synonym for Nibbana. Those who have forgotten mindfulness of body have forgotten the deathless. That means they have forgotten Nibbana. Did you see how much Buddha praised about practicing the mindfulness of body? What else should Buddha tell us about the benefits? It leads to all the happy things, all the wholesome qualities, all the stages of enlightenment. It's such powerful 14 mindfulness techniques. Which one is your favorite?
Sorry, Bhante. I think recently my favorite is the second one, Bhante, the Iriapata, the
Posture, mindfulness on postures.
Yes.
And also, if you go back to the Kayagata Sati Sutta, you will see that all the 14 types of meditation leads to samadhi. You see here that. Okay, so in the end of all these Kaya Vipassana meditations, Buddha adds this, the benefit of it, the result of that practice. Okay, his mind becomes stilled internally. It settles, unifies, and becomes immersed in samadhi. Right? This sentence, this statement of the Buddha is everywhere after all the meditation techniques. Not only after the breathing. Not only after the mindfulness of breathing meditation. Here Buddha was explaining about the impurities of the body meditation, mindfulness on the impurities of the body. In the same way, mendicant examines their own body up from the soles of the feet and down from the tips of the hairs wrapped in skin and full of many kinds of filth, like that. So after that meditation, Buddha explains this mind becomes settled, immersed in samadhi. Like that, each of those 14 types of meditations, in the end of those meditations, Buddha explains that it leads to samadhi, subduing of the 5 hindrances. If samadhi happens, then we know definitely that the mind should be very joyful, and there should be spiritual rapture in the mind, tranquility of the body. Then only the samadhi comes. So that means all these 14 types of meditations lead to the clarity of the mind, joy of the mind, spiritual rapture of the mind, tranquility of the body, the happiness that was highly praised by the Buddha that his disciples should gain in this very life. Buddha explains this happiness coming from this samadhi, this meditation practice, this mindfulness practice. This happiness surpasses all the worldly pleasures of the human world and all the divine pleasures in the heavenly world. Right? So we have that happiness just in front of us, but unfortunately we don't sometimes don't take it seriously. We still want to live in misery, thinking about all the negative things, right? Maybe you are very smart.
Bhante, may I ask Bhante something, please?
Mm-hmm.
In that sutta, Kaya Gatasati Sutta, there is also a sentence at the end of each meditation, each section. It says that the memory and thoughts in regard to the lay life.
Oh yeah, I wanted to explain that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that means the memories and what else was there?
Memory and thoughts.
Memories and thoughts related to the lay life normally relates to the thoughts of greediness, angry thoughts, you know, thoughts of attachments, thoughts of like fighting, those base kind of thoughts, very low kind of thoughts are considered, the Buddha categorized them as thoughts and feelings connected to the lay life. Like when monks, sometimes when monks fight each other, like using harsh words or argue each other, Buddha would ask, why do you still live like lay people? Don't you remember that you have renounced the lay life? Yeah, so this meditation leads to the abandonment of all those base kind of thoughts, base kind of attitudes, such as attachment, clinging, lust, greediness, craving, fighting, you know, insulting each other. All those base kind of thoughts are categorized as thoughts connected to the lay life.
Thank you.
Good. Does anybody have any questions?
Bante, Namo Buddhaya, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
When we practice mindfulness on the four elements, when we practice this meditation, should we focus on one of the element, or we can do four of them at the same time? How to do it, like the correct way to do it, like when we practice one day,
Yeah.
we can only focus in one element.
Better to do about the contemplating all the four elements to get the best results, I would say, because that is how always it is explained by the Buddha. I haven't read any place where Buddha would explain only about one element. It's always when the meditation instructions are given, it's about four elements and to do the investigation on all the four elements. But doing about one element is better than nothing. right? If you like to just contemplate on the earth element, that's fine too. It's better than nothing, but gradually you can add other elements as your contemplation and be familiarized with the all the 4 elements. Okay, Aina?
Yes, Bante.
Good.
Bhante, would the Anapanasati meditation, mindfulness of in-breath and out-breath, the very first one, would it be the same as the air element meditation? Or there's something similar, at least?
No, 2 different meditations. Breathing meditation, you only focus on in and out breathing. But in the air element contemplation, you focus on 6 types of winds associated with this body. Okay, Ben?
Yeah. Thank you, Bhante. Thank you.
One day, I have a question on the wind. It says the wind goes up and then wind goes down, right? Is that throughout the body? It's meaning that?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, okay. Because there was another one that breathe in and breathe out. So
that's through the nose.
The nose. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
2 different types of winds.
Thank you.
Bhante,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering, because with the COVID going on, so in case a person has unfortunately he is suffering his pain because of, let's say, he couldn't breathe because of this COVID thing, and of course, so it affects the lungs. So the lungs and the air. So lungs is the earth, and the air he couldn't do so. So what I'm referring is the elements. So so do you think that this person, I mean, if we can he still practice this kind of meditation? Would that be kind of a comforting? Well, of course, for him to gain the wisdom, right? So knowing that his condition right now, well, compared from the external earth, external wind, right? But then I'm just thinking that would that be advisable to still, explain this to him so that to comfort and to gain the knowledge and the wisdom, and to tell him that this is just impermanence?
Yeah, why not? He doesn't need to worry thinking, oh, I was very familiar with breathing meditation, I no longer can do that meditation, or I'm lost, I'm helpless. No, he doesn't need to think like that. That is the importance of having experienced different types of meditations. If you're only familiar with breathing meditation, and if you only know how to practice breathing meditation, as Harry explained, what happens if you are hospitalized? And you spend most of your time lying on a bed. The instructions of the Buddha to practice meditation is that you should sit and your back should be straight, right? Then only worries will be left. But if you practice different types of meditations, if you're familiar with them, in any environment, in any occasion, you have the Dhamma with you. You are not worried and upset.
So the family members or the friend can help to, even though the person couldn't do it, but then the family members can help to meditate, to help him meditate, so that if ever his end time comes, at least he thinks rightly, he thinks positively.
That's relatives can make powerful good karma at that time by helping their friend or relative. That's a very important topic. We should discuss about that. There are beautiful suttas about helping people during the last days of a person. There are powerful suttas, amazing suttas, and lots of people don't know about how to help their friend, their parents, their relatives at the last time, the end of life. They do crazy things, and that really damage their next life and damage their mind, because unfortunately they don't know, they don't have the knowledge of an enlightened one. So they think they are doing compassionate things. They are kind to their relatives who is dying, but unfortunately that's not the truth. They are doing very harmful things. So that should be a different class to learn about. I know there are classes out there. What are those classes are called? Helping those seniors. I have participated in those programs. Palliative care or something like
Yes,
that.
palliative. Yes.
Yes. I was a member of that, one of those programs here, and they invited us. I went there and we discussed about it. They wanted to know about Buddhist ways of doing that service to the dying people.
But what if it's still, but Bante, if it's
It's a very essential thing in the society, in the community. The government has implemented various programs to help people.
Yes. Then may I say, there are some temples that they do, like the lay people who is doing something with them in terms of last minute kind of help before they die, like they could actually pass away very peacefully, knowing that they're religious originally themselves, right? So even if they're not that religious, but they are still getting peaceful mind.
There are beautiful ways to help
Yes.
them.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter whether you are a serious practitioner of
Right.
a certain religion or not.
That's right. Yeah.
We all, people invite us, like their parents are about to pass away, and sometimes they are not Buddhists, but we still go there and help them. And
yeah, as long as they accept. Yeah, that's right.
That's priceless.
I have friends and that we do.
That help is priceless at that time.
Maybe that's right. Yeah.
But at the same time, unfortunately, lots of people lose that opportunity.
Yeah, but they are not aware, and some are family members. They disagree with among themselves. Let's say their parents, right, passed away or going to be passing away. Some because of the difference in religions within the family members, like daughters and sons and in-laws, whatever, right? So some of them don't agree, and which creates more problems.
Peaceful death is far away for them. There was a wise disciple in the time of the Buddha, and he wanted to know the exact same thing that we are discussing right now. He went up to the Buddha and asked, Bhante, I have learned lots of Dhamma, but I haven't learned directly from the Buddha how to help a dying person. And Buddha explained, Buddha gave beautiful sermon to him, all the instructions how to help a dying person. But he asked how to help a noble disciple, not an ordinary person, in that particular sutta. So Buddha explained, this is the way to help to a noble disciple by another noble disciple at the time of his death.
But Bante, I have a quick question. So if we, let's say, if we want to to do the meditation for the relative who is dying, should we do it beside the person so that, you know, so that the person can understand if he doesn't have knowledge, or in the case of quarantine, so we're not allowed. Okay, so how about the small group outside or in or other places, you know, they do it. Is
No,
it
the
possible
person,
for long distance? Yeah.
the person should
Yes.
hear that. The person should
Yes,
hear.
yes, yes.
He should himself practice it.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking. But then if it's quarantine and it cannot be, you know, at this time, right? Then
Yeah,
the effect is not good.
but we can still try.
You can still do that. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Bante.
Rob, you have a question?
Yes, Bante. When the Sutta explains what is fire element, what is air element, I guess it says air, airy, and clung to, fire, fiery, and clung to. Just wondering about clung to.
Yeah,
I
because
have a,
that is related to the one of the meaning there is that the elements themselves are mixing or mingling together. That is one meaning. Another meaning is that a person is clung to these parts, these element parts, as to mine, I am, and myself.
like grasping, for instance.
Yes.
So
So
you
we
could
see
say,
those two different translations available.
so you could say clung together, clung together.
Yeah, clung together, the parts.
Right. The different parts with air clung together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Bante.
Good. So normally when we just read these meditation instructions superficially, I would say, like just from the surface, somebody may think, oh, they are very kind of miserable meditations, because you have to think about the impure parts of the body, you know, elements of the body, charnel ground contemplations, and these kind of, would these lead to real like peace and clarity of the mind? Some people have those questions. But if you further read the benefit part of each meditation, you will realize that in reality, this meditation leads to advanced happiness, not misery. Even after the meditation on the impurities of the body, Buddha explains, when mind is developed with this meditation, mind settles down, body becomes tranquil, rapture arises, joy arises, and the mind becomes concentrated. So that is a misunderstanding if somebody thinks that if I were to think in this way, my life will be miserable, I will not enjoy this life. That's a completely misunderstanding. Lives are miserable because they are not doing these meditations, right? Lives are miserable. The majority in the world, lives are miserable. Divorce rates are very high. Just Google and check. Family conflicts, relationship problems are sky high. It's because, is it because of practicing these mindfulness techniques or not practicing? It's because not practicing. You can see this very clearly with these words of an enlightened monk. How the understanding the true nature of the life leads to enlightenment. Enlightenment is the best kind of happiness. Nibbanang paramang sukhang, the greatest happiness is enlightenment, Nibbana. And the path to Nibbana is also happy. If it was a miserable path, you can't find monks in this world and you can't find nuns. Because Buddha teaches monks, if somebody were to ask you, if somebody were to say to you, I would hit you with 100 spikes, swords at a time, and you will live 100 years. So throughout these 100 years, every day you will be struck with 100 spears, 100 swords. And in the end of that 100 lives, experiencing those painful feelings, I would guarantee you the realization of the Four Noble Truths. And Buddha asked us to accept that offer. Why? Buddha says, after striking with those 100 spears per day and you live for 100 years, at least in the end of those 100 years, it's guaranteed that you are going to realize the Four Noble Truths and escape from this cycle of birth and death. Right? Buddha says, if you do not realize the Four Noble Truths, the times you are going to hit by swords and spears and spikes, endless. Those times are endless. So accept that offer. At least your suffering is finished, at least after 100 years. After saying this, Buddha again says, monks, since now I am enlightened, since there is a Buddha in this world now, since that Buddha has discovered the Noble Eightfold Path now, you don't need to follow such a painful path to realize the Four Noble Truths. I am here as your master, as your teacher, as your Buddha. I have realized the Noble Eightfold Path, which is a pleasant path, very happy path. You can follow this path very happily with a smile always in your face and attain stages of enlightenment. That's in one of the suttas. So not only the result, Nibbanang Paraman Sukhang, not only the result, the end goal is pleasant, but also the path reaching to the end goal is also pleasant. And Buddha encouraged his disciples when Buddha was alive, saying this. Now you don't need to suffer. Like Buddha suffered a lot before he attained enlightenment. Remember, he practiced lots of austerities, lots of ways of torturing the body because he was doing an experiment whether the self-mortification is the path to enlightenment, and he tortures his body to the maximum level. He almost passed away. His body was a skeleton, and his body normally shines with 32 marks of a great person, and all these marks disappeared temporarily, and he was just a skeleton. Even gods and goddesses concluded that the recluse Gautama was dead and just lying on the ground near the Niranjana river, the bank of the Niranjana river. They concluded that recluse Gautama has just passed away. Look at that skeleton just lying on that sand. That's how painful when he was Buddha to be, while he was practicing the self-mortification. But for us as followers, should we suffer like that? No, Buddha says it's a pleasant path. Yeah, so meditations on the body, the true nature of the body, Kaya Anupassana meditations are also part of that pleasant path. So you don't have to have any doubts whether these meditations really leads to a pleasant life, because those right mindfulness is the seventh part of seventh factor of the Noble Eightfold Path, right? That's how we understand the Dhamma properly. If the path is pleasant, if the discoverer of the path guarantees that this path is pleasant, and all the mindfulness, Kaya Anupassana mindfulness techniques are included in that path, is it fair to say that the path is pleasant, but the seventh factor is not pleasant? No. All the meditation techniques are pleasant, beautiful, amazing, peaceful, leading to enlightenment. Okay, so we can conclude the program with these beautiful verses of enlightening verses of our Arahant monk Kappa, who is going to read. Harry, why are you smiling?
Because I'm very filthy.
Yeah, path to happiness.
I can read if Bante wants.
Okay.
Okay. All right. The verses of Arahant Kappa. Like a sewer full of filth, like a disgusting pool of dung, like a nasty wound, like a boil full of pus, born in a womb, full of pus and blood, heavy with excrement and urine, trickling filth all the time, disgusting things always ooze out of the body. Having a binding of 60 tendons, plastered with flesh, wrapped with a dress called skin, this foul body is worthless. Linked together with a skeleton of bones, with bonds of sinew threads, the body produces its various postures by the union of many filthy things. Definitely heading toward death. This body is always close to death. Having abandoned this body here, finally the person goes somewhere else. The true nature of this body is covered with ignorance, tied with knots of defilements. This body is sinking down in the flood of defilements. It is caught in the net of hidden defilements. Joined with the five hindrances, surrounded by lavish thoughts, rooted by craving, this house called body is roofed with rafters of delusion. With such a nature, this body functions by the engine called karma. Life ends whether you have gained or lost. Changing is the only nature of life. If somebody regards such a body to be their own, they are blind, ordinary people. They're just fill up this fearful samsara. Repeated journeying in samsara continues for them. Therefore, if somebody avoids this body like avoiding a snake smeared in dung, having uprooted existence with its root, he will attain final extinguishing and passing away without taints. These verses were said by Arahant Kappa. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Did you feel the taste of the truth?
Filthy.
Yes,
Taste of the truth is the sweetest taste in the
It's the
world.
sweetest. But
Sweetest
what
taste.
was bad?
Satchang have sadhu tarang rasam. The sweetest taste in the world is the taste of the truth. Like, didn't you feel that taste when those words came to your ears? That's the taste of the truth. You have a question, and Porn?
Yes, Bante.
Mm-hmm.
Bante, mm, mm, I heard somewhere about the mindfulness of the 32 part of the body, Bante.
Mm-hmm.
They say that if you are an anger type, if you practice that, it will increase your anger.
Mm-hmm.
So like, if you agree,
You want to
type,
know?
then,
Do
yeah,
you like to know whether it was said by the Buddha?
yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah. No, that was not a statement of the Buddha. Buddha never said that if somebody suffers with anger frequently, would practice impurities of the body meditation, would experience more anger. No, that's a misinterpretation. If you heard it somewhere, it's a personal opinion. Buddha, I haven't come across such a statement of the Buddha. Buddha always encouraged everybody to practice the Asubha meditation, the 32 impure parts of the body meditation. And also Buddha said that in order to abandon lust, Asubha meditation should be practiced. In order to abandon anger, loving kindness meditation should be practiced. In order to abandon wandering thoughts, breathing meditation should be practiced. In order to abandon the conceit, I, mine, myself, the notion of self, impermanence of elements, 6 sense bases, 5 groups of clinging, the Vipassana meditation should be practiced.
Thank you, Bante.
Good. Yeah, so those questions actually, people should ask those questions to get clarification, to go beyond doubts. Like, otherwise, those views are very harmful. There are so many views like that, wrong views spreading among meditators, among practitioners, so many wrong views. And those wrong views hinder lots of practitioners from gaining the results of the meditation, results of the practice. That is one of the wrong view. Yeah. So collect all those wrong views you are holding, and one day we can discuss about wrong views. Okay, so that is the end of the Kaya Anupassana mindfulness technique.
Okay, I think Suryani has put up her hand.
Okay, please go ahead, Suryani.
Thank you, Bante.
Mm.
Bante, can Bante clarify the Samma Samadhi part of the Noble Eightfold Path? Does that refer to the attainment of jhana?
Always in the Noble Eightfold Path, the Samma Samadhi refers to by the Buddha to the first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, and fourth jhana.
So, because I heard also from other source, Bante, that to attain arahantship, jhana is not like is not mandatory.
That's a wrong view.
There's something called like dry vipassana.
That's not taught by the Buddha. Buddha always taught there should be 8 factors in the Noble Eightfold Path, and the 8th one is Samma Samadhi. If you delete that, then you can't call it a Noble Eightfold Path. It's a Noble 7 path. That you cannot create like that. It's always, there should be 8 factors, and the 8th one is the right Samadhi, Samma Samadhi. And the right Samadhi, we don't need to give definitions for that. Buddha has given the definition. right samadhi is always defined as the first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana, throughout the entire collection of discourses, not only in 2, 3, 4 discourses, throughout the thousands of discourses, Buddha gives the same definition for the Samma Samadhi. Yeah, it's a collective name for the first, second, third, fourth jhanas. You can read Satya Vibhanga Sutta to learn about Samma Samadhi.
Thank you, Bante. Bante, how do we correlate, for instance, an example in the life story of the Buddha, when the Buddha visited his father, King Suddhodana, and then eventually King Suddhodana passed away after the Buddha gives, I think, talk to him. So does it mean that the king actually has jhana?
Yeah, all the Noble Eightfold Path, the factors were fulfilled. There is no way for somebody to attain higher stages of enlightenment, especially to become a non-returner and to become an arahant. The jhana is a compulsory requirement.
Bante, does it mean that it could be like the jhana was attained, jhana 1 to 4 was attained maybe in the past life, but not in the last life?
No. Everything should be here in this very life. Anybody can practice jhanas in their past lives, but at the time of attaining the stages of enlightenment, specifically the stage of non-returning, the Buddha's father attained the stage of arahantship in this life, so he should gain those stages of like attainments of jhanas in this life.
Yes, sorry, Bante, because I was just curious, like never heard that in the story King Suddhodana attained jhana, or
how you clarify these things by yourself is that if Buddha said that Noble Eightfold Path should be completed to attain arahantship, then we should know that there are 8 factors of the path. And the 8th factor is the right samadhi, Samma Samadhi. Then we know for sure, okay, right samadhi is defined by the Buddha as the first, second, third, fourth, and jhana, 8 jhana. And if Buddha also says that Noble Eightfold Path should be fully developed to attain the final stage of enlightenment, and Buddha's father attained final stage of enlightenment, then definitely all the 8 factors of the Noble Eightfold Path need to be fully developed. So then we know out of those 8, Samma Samadhi is 1, so it should be fully developed.
Okay.
That's how we apply Dhamma knowledge to our questions, and then we clarify things, and we overcome doubts and perplexities, and our knowledge of the Dhamma becomes straight. Okay?
Yeah, thank you, Bante.
Good.
Bante, may I ask a question, following Suryani's question?
Maybe next time, okay?
Oh, okay. Yes, thank you.
So keep questions for future programs. Don't ask all the questions today and finish the questions. So everybody say sadhu.
Bante.
Aina.
Yeah, sorry, Bante. I just want to clarify. After I listened Bante explanation to Suryani, I just want to confirm my understanding that to attain arahantship, we should develop jhana. Am I right?
What do you think?
Based on that explanation, I understand like that.
No, based on the teachings.
Yeah,
what do you
based on
think?
So based on the teaching that I just listened a few minutes ago, so I understand to become an arahant, we have to achieve jhana.
Why?
One,
I am asking you why.
My understanding with the jhana that we can have a full concentration to proceed to Sama Samadhi.
Why can't we delete Samma
fulfill-
Samadhi and
To
attain
fulfill the
arahantship? Huh?
to fulfill the eight, the noble eightfold path.
Why can't we go with 7?
Because that is the Buddha teaching that we have to eradicate all things by the noble eightfold path, right?
Very good learner of the teachings.
So that's mean, Bante, I want to confirm again, if somebody say that someone can attain arahantship without jhana, it is considered a wrong view.
Making powerful bad karma leading to hell. Because they are deleting the last factor of the Noble Eightfold Path. And that is called adhamma. And Buddha it's not me saying that the person is leading to rebirth in hell, it's the Buddha again. Buddha says, if somebody changes my Dhamma, and that's bahuncha apunyam pasavati, that person makes powerful bad karma and ends up in planes of misery. If it is 8 factors of the path, we cannot delete a single factor of that path. It should be always 8. Okay, Aina?
Yes, Bante, thank you very much. I understand.
Good. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.